One watch survived the deepest point on Earth. Another reached the top of Mount Everest. One crossed the freezing waters of the English Channel. All of them were made by the same company, a company that built its reputation not through advertising but through proof. Because Rolex never tried to be the most complicated watch, it tried to become something harder, the most trusted one. But the story of Rolex did not begin with luxury. It began with a radical idea that one day the most precise watch in the world would not sit in a pocket. It would sit on your wrist. Time is the only resource that every human receives equally. 24 hours. No more. No less. But the way we measure time has shaped civilizations. For centuries, time belonged to the sun, to shadows on stone, to church bells echoing across cities. Precision did not yet exist. Then came the age of machines, railways, factories, global trade. Suddenly, minutes mattered. And in 1905, a young entrepreneur in London named Hans Wilsdorf saw something others did not. He believed the future would belong to wristwatches. At the time, the idea sounded absurd. Wristwatches were considered fragile, unreliable, almost decorative. Serious timekeeping belonged to pocket watches, but Wilsdorf believed something radical. If a watch could become small and still remain precise, it could become something more. Not just a tool, a companion. He focused on two ideas: accuracy and durability. In 1910, his watches became the first wristwatches ever certified for precision by an official watch testing institute. It was a quiet revolution, but precision alone was not enough. A watch worn every day faced something pocket watches rarely did: water, rain, sweat, dust. And so in 1926, Rolex introduced something the world had never seen before: the Oyster case, a sealed watch case that protected the movement from the outside world. To prove it worked, Wilsdorf did not publish technical explanations. He chose something better: a story. In 1927, a swimmer named Mercedes Gleitze attempted to cross the English Channel. Around her neck hung a Rolex oyster. She swam for more than 10 hours through freezing water. When she reached the shore, the watch was still ticking. Perfectly. For the first time, a watch was not just a device, it was proof. Proof that precision could survive the real world. And from that moment, Rolex was no longer just a watch company. It was becoming something else, a symbol of reliability under pressure. But the real transformation was still ahead. Because the world was about to enter an age of exploration, the 20th century became a race, not just between nations, but between limits. Humans began pushing into places no one had ever survived before: the highest mountains, the deepest oceans, the fastest machines. And Rolex saw something important. If a watch could survive those environments, it would become more than a product. It would become a witness. In 1953, a Rolex accompanied Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay during the first successful ascent of Mount Everest. Time had reached the top of the world. Soon after, another frontier followed: the ocean floor. In 1960, an experimental Rolex watch descended nearly 11 kilometers attached to the bathyscaphe Trieste, the deepest point on Earth. When the vessel returned to the surface, the watch still worked. Pressure that could crush steel had not stopped time. By then, Rolex had understood something powerful. People were not buying watches only to tell time. They were buying what the watch represented: achievement, endurance, consistency. So Rolex refined its identity. It did not chase fashion, it avoided sudden change. Designs evolved slowly, almost invisibly. The Submariner, the Datejust, the Daytona, models that remained recognizable decade after decade. In a world obsessed with novelty, Rolex chose permanence. The watches became objects that moved across generations, passed from father to son, from one life to another. And over time, Rolex transformed into something rare, a brand that spoke quietly. No exaggeration, no urgency, just confidence. Today, millions of watches are produced every year, but very few objects carry the same meaning. A Rolex does not simply measure time, it marks moments, the climb, the dive, the victory, the milestone. Because in the end, time itself cannot be owned, but the moments inside it can. And that is the real story of Rolex. If you enjoy stories about the ideas that shape the world's greatest brands, subscribe to the channel, because the next story is already waiting.